What exactly can the pontiff help President Obama with, Phil?
So there are key elements of what Pope Francis has been talking about with regularity over the last year or so that the White House actually thinks very much so helps its agenda. And I want to talk about three that he will be talking about while he's here. Economic inequality. This has been a big White House issue that they've been trying to address through policy functions that have mostly been blocked on Capitol Hill. So that'll be one. Climate change is another one. He brought it out in his encyclical recently. The White House has seized on that and tried to use that as momentum to push forward, at least on the executive branch side, But I want to talk about the last one, which I think is really important. On Friday, he's going to be in Philadelphia. So if you look through his schedule, he arrives on Tuesday night. The president will go out of his way to actually visit him when he arrives, something the president rarely does. Wednesday, he's at the White House for a big ceremony and to talk with the president. Thursday, joint session of Congress. Then he goes to New York City. He'll speak to the UN. While he's at the UN, he'll address climate change. The White House, big hopes for that speech. But when he goes to Philadelphia this weekend, he'll be talking about criminal justice reform. That has been a big push from the White House and President Obama over the last 6 to 12 months. They think that push right there, there's some bipartisan support on Capitol Hill for that. If the Pope adds some momentum to that, that's something that the White House actually thinks they can move forward on Capitol Hill, Vani.
Will there have been any coordination between the Pope's people, if you like, and President Obama's people on what the Pope is actually going to address here?
On logistics, yes. On the actual substance of the remarks, no. I've been talking to White House officials about this, and there's excitement about the visit, no doubt about it. The president thinks very highly of Pope Francis. He regularly talks about his one-on-one meeting with Pope Francis at the Vatican last year. However, there's caution about it. Look, the White House is not aligned with the Vatican, with Pope Francis on everything. The White House splits with Catholic teachings when it comes to abortion, when it comes to gay marriage. So there's caution about what he's going to say. I talked to one White House official who made clear, Vani, look, we look forward to what the Pope has to say, but we know much better than to try and get involved with what he's going to say, guys.
Phil, I thought the Wall Street Journal did a great job. Toni Morrison, the Nobel laureate. I am a lapsed Catholic, but Pope Francis is impressive enough to make me reconsider my error. We look for error with Michael McKee of Bloomberg Surveillance. That really speaks to the moment, doesn't it?
It does. Phil, quickly, got to ask you about this report that the U.S., speaking of Cuba, may abstain at the UN from the annual condemnation of the U.S.-Cuba embargo.
Yeah, Mike, that's what we're hearing right now from officials is that's a possibility. And what it aligns with basically is what this administration has said. The president has called for Congress to remove the embargo, the trade embargo that's been in place since the very end of Dwight Eisenhower's administration, has called for him to vote on that. Congress is not going to move on that so long as Republicans are in control of the House and Senate. So this is a way to show, Mike, if they go through with this, that's what they want, Mike.
Phil, thank you so much. Phil Mattingly in Washington.